Someone just disrespected you. Maybe it was in public. Maybe it was someone you trusted. Maybe it was so casual, so offhand that they didn't even realize they did it. And now something in you is burning. The question isn't whether you felt it. The question is what you do with it. Because what you do in the next 10 seconds, will either give that person power over you or take it back. This video is about those 10 seconds and every second that follows. Emotional calm is not the absence of feeling. Let's be clear about that from the start. A calm person still feels anger, still feels humiliation, still notices when something isn't right. The difference is what happens next. The reactive person is moved by the event. The calm person moves through it. And this is not a personality trait you're born with. It is a skill, a set of learnable, practicable, neurologically real techniques developed across centuries of philosophy and decades of psychological research. Today we cover 5 of them. 5 steps that can fundamentally change how you respond when someone treats you as less than you are. There is a gap between what happens to you and what you do about it. Philosophers have called it different things. The Stoics called it the ruling faculty, the part of you that decides what an event means and what you will do next. Most people shrink that gap to 0. Someone disrespects them and they react, immediately, instinctively, emotionally. The reaction feels like strength. It is not. It is evidence that someone else is controlling you. The first step to emotional calm is the simplest and hardest. Pause. Not forever, not to avoid, just long enough for your brain's prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational thought, to catch up with your amygdala, which just fired an alarm. That pause is where your power lives. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux's research on the amygdala hijack shows that emotional reactions to perceived threats can override rational thought in milliseconds. But that response lasts only 6 to 10 seconds. After that, the thinking brain regains control. The pause doesn't require willpower, it just requires those seconds. Before you speak, take one slow breath. Not for the other person, for yourself. You are buying time for your best self to show up. Here is what most people do when they're disrespected. They feel something overwhelming, they can't name it, and that unnamed feeling takes over their behavior. Here is what psychologists recommend instead. Name the emotion, internally, without broadcasting it. I'm feeling humiliated right now. That triggered something in me that feels like shame. I'm angry. This process, called affect labeling, has been studied extensively at UCLA. When you name an emotion, the intensity of that emotion decreases. Not because naming is magic, but because the act of naming requires your prefrontal cortex to engage. You are, in a very real neurological sense, stepping out of the emotional flood and onto dry ground. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journals about this practice, not to perform calmness, but to understand himself clearly enough to choose his next action wisely. A landmark 2007 UCLA study by Matthew Lieberman found that labeling negative emotions significantly reduced activity in the amygdala. The brain literally calmed itself through the act of naming. This is why journaling, therapy, and even internal monologue are genuinely therapeutic, not just as expressions, but as regulatory tools. When disrespect lands, ask yourself, what is this feeling? Give it one word: angry, humiliated, dismissed. That single word is a cognitive interrupt. It breaks the automatic reaction loop. One of the most powerful reframes in Stoic philosophy and modern cognitive therapy is this: the way someone delivers feedback tells you about them. What they deliver might still contain something useful to examine. When someone disrespects you, there are 2 possibilities. Either what they said contains a grain of truth worth examining, or it doesn't. In both cases, your emotional reaction is not the tool for figuring out which is which. The emotionally calm person asks, is there anything here worth considering? Not to please the person who said it, not because rudeness deserves a reward, but because your growth belongs to you, and it doesn't care where the catalyst came from. If there's nothing of value, the delivery, the disrespect, the cruelty, you can release it entirely. But release requires clarity, and clarity requires calm. Cognitive behavioral therapy distinguishes between the event, the thought about the event, and the feeling that follows. The disrespect is the event. Your interpretation creates the thought. Your thought generates the feeling. By interrupting the interpretation layer, you interrupt the emotional cascade. This is the basis of rational emotive behavior therapy, developed by Albert Ellis. Ask yourself, if someone I trusted deeply said this same thing, would any part of it be worth hearing? If yes, take that part. If no, put it down like something that was never yours to carry. Your emotions are not just mental events, they are physical. When you are disrespected, your body responds before your mind decides anything. Heart rate increases, jaw tightens, chest tightens, breathing becomes shallow. If you try to think your way to calm while your body is still in alarm mode, you're fighting against your own physiology. The fastest path to mental calm runs through physical regulation. And the most powerful tool for physical regulation is something you already know how to do. Breathe. Specifically, slow your exhale. Research shows that extending the exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which counteracts the stress response. A simple technique: inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6 or 8 counts. Do it once, do it twice. That's enough to shift the physiological state. Your body is not your enemy. It's your first responder. Give it the signal that the crisis has passed, and your mind will follow. Research from Stanford's neuroscience lab, led by Dr. Andrew Huberman, demonstrates that cyclic sighing and extended exhales are among the fastest evidence-based methods for reducing physiological stress in real time. Unlike medication or meditation, which require time, breath regulation works within seconds. In the moment of disrespect, don't hold your breath. Most people do. Let your exhale go long and slow, as if you're deflating something. That physiological shift is measurable, real, and immediate. And the final and most sophisticated step is this. Ask not what do I feel like doing right now, but what would I respect myself for doing looking back? Emotionally reactive people respond from their wounds, from the place that was hurt, that wants to hurt back, that wants to win or escape. And sometimes that response feels justified in the moment, but it almost never aligns with who you actually want to be. Emotionally calm people respond from their values. They ask, what matters here? What do I stand for? How do I want to carry myself through this? The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius, who dealt with betrayal, incompetence, and deliberate cruelty from people around him on a daily basis, wrote this: "The best revenge is to not be like your enemy." Not passivity, not weakness, a choice made from strength about who you are. That is the response that earns you something permanent, your own self-respect. Psychological research on self-regulation consistently shows that value-based decision-making, choosing actions aligned with personal values rather than emotional impulse, leads to higher life satisfaction, better relationship outcomes, and greater mental resilience. This is a core component of acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, one of the most evidence-supported therapeutic frameworks available. Before you respond to disrespect, ask, will I respect this choice in an hour, in a day, in a year? If yes, proceed. If no, pause, breathe, and find the response that belongs to your better self.
The person who disrespected you was counting on a reaction. They were counting on the version of you that burns, that snaps, that shrinks, the version that hands them proof that they got to you. What they didn't count on is this: the version of you that pauses, that breathes, that names what it feels, that asks what matters, that responds from strength instead of from pain. Emotional calm isn't distance. It isn't coldness. It isn't pretending nothing happened. It is the radical decision to remain yourself, especially when someone is trying to make you into someone smaller. Practice one of these steps this week, just one, and notice what changes.
If this video gave you something useful, share it. And I'll see you in the next one.